Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. I'm here with Linda to discuss something that the DEC, this has become a prime sort of issue with the DEC this year. I see that they've announced online that they have new policies about invasive species and grants. And of course, this has always been a big deal. You always have to be aware, and we've talked so much on the radio about how important knowing about these invasive species and how they can affect the environment that they come into. I talked a lot about the case in New Hampshire where rock bass were somehow put into Lake Winnipesaukee. And that's a very famous lake, and those rock bass became an invasive species. And they have really upset the bass fishing there, the smallmouth bass fishing. But more specifically, you printed out a number of things for me to be able to assess, to be able to talk about on the radio to people that are imperatives right now by the DEC. And this is something that I wanted to speak about.
Yes. Don, DEC provides a newsletter called DEC Delivers, and this appears maybe weekly, perhaps monthly, depending upon what kind of news they have. And so I had brought this to your attention because there are some grant programs that are available as well as workshops. And so I thought perhaps your listeners might be very interested in learning more about this. So the one that I'm referencing now is the St. Lawrence Eastern Lake, Ontario. It's called PRISM, and it's an aquatic invasive species learning experience. It's a multi-session training type of program that will be held from May 1st through July 31st of this year. And this would provide folks with greater information and understanding of the invasive species and what they would, what they could learn. And so the trainings are set up in 3 sessions. The first one is a webinar on plant ID. The second is an in-person plant ID workshop. And the third session is a guided paddle. So if folks want to learn more or find out more about this, they can simply go to the DEC website, dec.ny.gov, and they can sign up for this program. They can learn more about plants and invasive species, and I think that your listeners might find it very invaluable.
Well, a lot of times when we've been talking about invasive species, we've been talking about different species that I'm not talking about invertebrates. I'm talking about like the gobies and the zebra mussels and so forth. And fortunately, what we all perceived initially is going to be a very negative impact that these invasive species would have on our fisheries is proven just the opposite in the case of the gobies and in the zebra mussels as well. The zebra mussels have cleaned up our waterways, our St. Lawrence River system noticeably, made the water much clearer and free of a lot of the pollutants that were once there. And the gobies, because of what the zebra mussels have provided, have had a new home to live in. And the gobies have provided a tremendous diet support for most of our species in the St. Lawrence River. But there's so many other invasive species that, that can really become harmful, especially some of the plant type invasive.
I'm thinking of the water chestnuts.
Yes.
And that has been a problem.
And there's been groups that have tried to combat that by having days set aside to try to rid certain areas of water chestnuts and so forth. And what this DEC
what this program would do, Don, it would help property owners and recreationists learn more about the plants and learn how they can be proactive to maybe remove some of those bits of vegetation from the water to keep the water clear for fishing, because fishing means tourism for our area.
Well, you know, specifically what I was referring to is what this hints at to me is that if there's groups that want to get people together to try to have work programs to eliminate some of this or deal with it, there appears to be state monies available for
Yes.
grants to be able to identify these programs and be able to work through them. So this is something I think is new right now. The state getting behind this DEC imperative.
Well, if I could add another point to this, the DEC probably can't be in every place all at once. But what they can do is partner with local property owners and partner with folks who use the water and encourage them to be on the lookout, perhaps adopt a water body and commit to looking at it regularly, and if they see something, knowing how to remove it, identifying what it is and knowing how to remove it.
That's right. You know, there's so many biological names to some of these organisms that have come into our area and to other areas that a lot of times people hear about it and it doesn't mean that much until you really investigate.
Right.
But this gives us a source of investigation and hopefully a source of developing programs that we as citizens of these areas can take upon ourselves to work through.
Very true.
So this is our report on this for this week. Until next time, folks, this is Don and Linda with the North Country Fishing Report.